RBI Governor Urjit Patel's resignation this evening cited personal reasons, and it comes days after sparring with the centre over banks' autonomy and over questions over whether the government had a right over the RBI's finances. The opposition is accusing the government once again of destroying democratic institutions, the centre dismissing the charges. But clearly, the RBI crisis is one that should worry all those connected with the financial sector.
Months after the ugly face-off with the Narendra Modi government, Urjit Patel has quit as the governor of the Reserve Bank of India. His 3-year term was supposed to end in September next year. In a statement, Patel said he was resigning on account of personal reasons with immediate effect. Just minutes after Urjit Patel's resignation, the opposition launched a scathing attack on the Modi government.
The government is getting more and more desperate. The government is taking measures that are dangerous for our country. The RBI governor has resigned because he is protecting the institution of the RBI and he is not able to function.
The government was subdued in its reactions. PM Modi, in a series of tweets, described Urjit Patel as a thorough professional with impeccable integrity. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley echoed Prime Minister Modi in praising Urjit Patel.
The government deeply acknowledges the great services that he has rendered to India, its economy, in several capacities, more particularly as the Governor of the Reserve Bank and the Deputy Governor of the Reserve Bank.
BJP MP Subramanian Swamy, while disapproving of Patel's resignation, pushed for reconciliation between him and centre.
Resignation at this time would be wrong for the government, would be wrong for the economy, wrong for the Reserve Bank. So I think the Prime Minister should call him and find out from him what could be the personal reasons.
The RBI Central Board member S. Gurumurthy, whose differences with Patel was widely reported, termed the governor's decision shocking. The resignation of Urjit Patel does not come as a surprise. The central bank was under tremendous pressure from the government to shell out more from its reserves. As compromise, the two had decided to set up a committee to study the issue. The ceasefire evidently has failed. The resignation of Patel, who implemented demonetization, is a big embarrassment to the Modi government. With Rajiv Dubey in Delhi and Sahil Joshi in Mumbai, Bureau Report, India Today.
Let's raise the big questions tonight. Has Urjit Patel's resignation embarrassed the Narendra Modi government? Is the Modi government guilty of meddling with institutions as the opposition accuses it of? Is the economic picture not as rosy as it looks? Has Urjit Patel quit over the issue of handling reserves? Clearly, some of the questions that the Narendra Modi government, in a sense, will once again have to answer given the manner in which the RBI governor has stepped down. Sucheta Dalal, Managing Editor, Money Life, with us. Also with us, Rajiv Dubey, our Senior Editor, Managing Editor at Business Today. Nitin Desai, former Chief Economic Advisor, about to join us. Sucheta Dalal, your first reactions to Urjit Patel's resignation. Is there more to it than meets the eye? Can the government simply get away by saying it's business as usual?
No, it can't. I think there's definitely more to it than meets the eye. They set up a committee, but the composition of the committee would also be an issue. And I'm sure there was some pressure on him because nobody resigns as the governor of the Reserve Bank of India just like that. It is a serious position. He took his job seriously and he's not going to get out unless he was under considerable pressure. There's one interesting point over here. You remember the last time that the NDA was in power, an RBI governor had quit before his term and he became a Rajya Sabha MP soon after. This time I don't think it's going to be so cordial because I think Urjit Patel has resisted some kind of pressure, which is why he's had to resign.
What is the nature of that pressure, Rajiv? There were all kinds of speculation going around that the government was pushing the central bank to undertake certain policy measures, in particular ensure some liquidity support for banks that are struggling. The RBI didn't want the government to dip into its coffers without its permission. There was talk of Section 7 being invoked of the RBI Act. What was the pressure on Urjit Patel? What are your sources telling you?
So all of these, but most importantly, there was going to be the governance of RBI that was to be discussed in the December 14 meeting. It was one of the major items on the agenda in the last meeting also, never got picked up because there was lack of time, although the meeting went on for 9.5 hours. But this was going to be another major issue. And what the government wants as far as governance of RBI is concerned is that there has to be procedures and process. RBI governors have functioned in the past. That would have been one of the major issues in my view. The other, of course, we know all about those non-performing asset circular didn't go down well with the government. The prompt corrective action circular by the RBI, again the government wants some banks which are performing better to be to this circular to be diluted so that they can come out of the PCA
Is it also
framework.
true that the independent directors, particularly those seen to be close to the government, the likes of Mr. Gurumurthy, were sniping at Mr. Patel, were effectively acting on behalf of the government? That's where the question of the autonomy of the Reserve Bank of India governor comes.
So the last meeting started out very tensely, and he really took charge of the situation there because he wanted to just avoid that situation of that tense environment, and so he took charge of it. He took charge of it as almost the chairman of the meeting, which he should have, but he really eased the meeting last time. And so despite Viral Acharya actually issuing some other dissenting voice in the meeting and many other issues including economic capital framework, he didn't quite agree with it. But Urjit Patel managed that meeting very well. So it was then expected that he would probably, he had agreed to most of the government demands that the government had made, but obviously that was not the truth, and the pressure on from the centre's nominees on the RBI board had probably become too much for him to handle now.
Is there Nitin Desai, former chief economic advisor, joining us? Do you believe that the government has much more to answer here? That they simply can't get away by sending a thank you note to Urjit Patel? There seems to be a general fear now that the government is wants to bypass the RBI once again to ensure the recapitalization of banks that are struggling, particularly in the build-up to election, want some of their money possibly for various schemes that the government wants to bring before the people, thereby preventing the RBI governor from playing the role that he should.
I think they are playing a very dangerous game if that's what they are going to do, because they must understand that India is the Indian capital market is very different now from what it was 20 years ago. It is much more open. There's a lot of inflow which comes in from abroad, particularly in the debt market. And I think if they don't play this right, I'm sure you're going to see a bit of a conflagration in markets tomorrow. But if they don't play it right and make some sort of a very routine appointment of somebody who's clearly their person, I'd say that they'll be making a big mistake. The only way they can retrieve the situation now is to put in as the replacement for Urjit Patel somebody with the same type of standing like Raghuram Rajan or Urjit or something like that. I don't think this was a very wise move. If it was something which the government instigated, and maybe they didn't anticipate this. It is possible that they thought they could push this man a little hard, and he didn't give in. So,
there will be those Sucheta Dalal
that they make.
There will be those Sucheta Dalal who will say that in November of 2016, when the government brought through demonetization, Urjit Patel at that stage, while he may have raised some concerns, didn't really challenge the government. Now he seems to have developed muscle in the last few months to challenge the government. What do you think has changed? Why do you think matters have reached a stage in the RBI where, as you said, governors don't normally resign, that the governor was forced to say, that's it, what's the message that's going out? And therefore, will whoever replaces him simply have to be a rubber stamp?
No, I would say...
Yes, Sucheta, go ahead.
No, I hope not, because if that is the case, then they are endangering India's development.
I get your point.
So,
I get your point, Nitin. Let me just take Mr. Desai. Let me get in Sucheta. Yes. Go ahead, Sucheta.
Okay, so Rajdeep, what I think is that the governor took a lot of flack during demonetization. Yeah. So governor took a lot of flack during demonetization for the government. We all know that demonetization was very badly planned, badly handled, and he was absolutely new at that time. He took pressure for nearly 2 years, including on the counting of notes. And I think there's only so much that you can push a person. Now that you have all these bad loans, there was a question of appointments to banks, there was a question of all kinds of bills that the government was bringing in because they wanted their ranking on ease of doing business to increase. I don't think it's one issue. I think it's a whole lot of small issues that have been pushing this man. Everybody who's dealt with him, you know, they say that he's his own man, he sticks to what he says, and he's not hankering after power. I think it's extremely embarrassing for the government for this to happen on the eve of elections. You have a general election coming up. Whoever they put in that place, it's not going to be good enough, because I don't think you're going to get a good man to accept that job knowing the kind of pressure there is. So the government is going to end up with a rubber stamp, and that's not going to be good either for the country or for optics where the BJP itself is concerned. I think they went too far. They had enough warning that he is not hanging on to his post, he may resign. I had written about it. So the government can't claim that, oh, we are so surprised that he resigned. They know very well that they were pushing him a bit too far, and they have pushed him again, because otherwise nobody resigns.
You know, Nitin Desai, very quickly therefore, you said that whoever the government brings should be a man of stature. But why will anyone of stature now take up this post? You know, it's back to what happened with the Indian cricket coach. You know, when, if I may be allowed to use the analogy in a very different context, when the captain decided on his own that I don't want Anil Kumble was removed. Now the sense that will go on is that whoever is in the RBI governor's post has to be a Narendra Modi man, has to be a rubber stamp of this government, or he will not be there. Why will any self-respecting senior economist then take up the post?
It's absolutely right, and I think that you must also remember that there have always been pressures from the administrative people on and having that post. Remember, there have been 11 administrative service people in that post and only 6 economists. We've gotten used to the idea of having an economist there because we had Manmohan Singh and Rangarajan and Bimal Jalan and so on. You see, so I'd say that it's not a normal thing. I have always sensed that there is a feeling in the part of the administrative service, ये तो administrative post है, हमारे हाथ में आना चाहिए. I'm afraid Sucheta is right. You're also right. This is what is happening. I'm only announcing, voicing a hope and an expectation. But I would tend to agree that we are probably going to get some yes man type there.
Right.
And it's going to be a big problem for the Indian capital market.
Big embarrassment, therefore, for the Narendra Modi government coming, what, 6 to 7 weeks before the budget comes in, before the few months before the election. We've already seen the mess up in the CBI. Now it's the RBI. The opposition will justifiably claim that, look, where is the autonomy for institutions? Raghuram Rajan's term gets cut short. Now an RBI governor resigns.
Yes, absolutely. I think the timing of this has definitely not worked to the government's liking. But I suspect that this has been in the offing for so long that I think the government would have already made up its mind who the next person could be. For the moment, they have given N.S. Vishwanathan to take charge. In the absence
despite the fact that that last meeting had allegedly gone well, you're saying the government still feared that Urjit Patel could go.
Yeah, because they had, the government directors, nominees on the board had been pushing him very hard. So it was very clear that they would have wanted, this kind of a step coming, and the government.
And the real crisis remains. The crisis of NBFCs, the banking crisis, that's not going to end by changing the RBI governor. It's not going to end by bringing Vijay Mallya back.
The non-performing assets crisis is not resolved yet. The funding of the banks issue has not been resolved. The funding of NBFCs and SMEs is not resolved. So there's a lot to be resolved. But I guess that the government has made up its mind about who the next person would be. They might announce it maybe a little later, after the December 14 meeting, because this is too close. But I personally believe that they would have made up their mind about who that next person is going to be.
Let's leave it there. Mallya and Urjit Patel making all the headlines today. Sucheta Dalal, Nitin Desai, Rajiv Dubey, appreciate your joining us. My take: for the Modi government, the politics of perception has been a critical aspect of their governance, which is why today will be seen as a day which reflects the best and worst of this government's record. The green signal to Vijay Mallya's extradition is a huge boost to the government's efforts to send a firm message to defaulters and fugitives that the Modi government means business. At the same time, the resignation of the RBI governor couldn't have come at a worse time. The government has been repeatedly charged with undermining institutional independence. The pressures on the banking sector won't end with the return of a Mallya, nor will they be resolved by the appointment of a new RBI governor. There are serious underlying structural issues that burden the banking and financial sector that remain unaddressed. Mallya, in a sense, is a symptom of what went wrong when bad loans were being repeatedly evergreen when the UPA was in power. All is not well though even now. Sooner the Modi government recognizes that the crisis goes beyond headline management, better for the financial health of this country.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you will love to.